Are you feeling overwhelmed when you think it should be really easy to run your business? Chances are you're feeling pretty overwhelmed. Well, if that sounds like you, think about this video where we talk about how to replace a virtual assistant with an operations department, or really why you shouldn't even do a virtual assistant in the first place. Stick around and I'll show you why this mindset shift is so important for your business. To begin with, here's what everybody gets wrong with a virtual assistant. Really, many business owners think that a virtual assistant can remove all of their operational issues. But thinking that this one person, as a virtual assistant, can solve them all, you're already dead in the water. A virtual assistant, when you put it in your mind, is probably an element of personal and an element of work. And of course, that sounds okay, but you really want that person focused exclusively on your business so that they can drive it into a successful position. You'd never ask your operations department to schedule a dinner or organize a gift, but you would ask a virtual assistant, and they're gonna start thinking like that, and they might get distracted as you're doing your work or trying to set up your work. Secondly, virtual assistants can be great for doing a couple of roles, a handful of roles, but really as one person, and really that function is kind of only designed to ever be one person, they're not going to be able to scale with your business. Whereas an operation department really can, even if it does start with one person in it. So let me tell you about our life before an operations department. I was doing customer service, Lucy was replying to social media, Emily was building wholesale emails, Bushra was doing retail emails, and it was a nightmare because we spent so much of our time focusing on the urgent but not important issues, where we really should be spending time on the important and urgent and important and not urgent. That's where you're going to be able to move the business forward. And taking out all of those urgent activities from a particular role really gives your team the ability and focus to spend time doing that deep work on the important actions. It's the Eisenhower matrix, which is also an amazing tool and thing that you should look up if you haven't heard of it before. Now, why is framing your mindset so important here? Well, because an operations department isn't just about one person. It's about scalable processes, which are going to make it super easy to communicate to your team and run your team like a well-oiled machine. That well-oiled machine will have clearly defined responsibilities, processes, and roles, which is super crucial for making a business go from where it is currently to where you want it to be. So you've heard about why we don't want a virtual assistant, but what about an operations department? Well, what is an operations department to begin with? It's essentially a bunch of people who are dedicated to the day-to-day functions and tasks that you need for your business to continue to run. No one's sitting there saying, stop responding to emails, stop responding to social media comments. You absolutely have to be doing that, but you don't have to be doing it all day, every day. There needs to be someone in your team who can do that and focus on the urgent stuff while you can focus on the non-urgent stuff. For us in e-commerce, that's things like order fulfillment, making sure the trains really run on time in that particular space. Things like inventory management, making sure our products are up to date on the website and that we've got good coverage of inventory across warehouses, for example. Think of it as the backbone of e-commerce. It's all those things that you don't want to have to do, but you really know you have to do to make sure your business is running on time. In my mind, I've kind of simplified it down to what are the repeatable tasks that you need to do every day, week, fortnight, month, maybe even quarter. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, great, but what does an operations department look like, even if it is one person? Well, that's what we use Notion for. We really want to have a super clear, understandable idea of what are the expectations, how often does something need to be done, why does it need to be done, when does it need to be done, and have that kind of split out in a repeatable place that if you were to say lose somebody or gain additional people because you need it to kind of scale up your operations, you'd be able to do that just in a second. So we use Notion to do that, and let me show you how. The way we like to think about it is our e-commerce operations associate, and that's this template which we've created here. You can of course download it, it should be in the link below. We've just tried to set it out. Of course, you can make it yourself on Notion, and we've got a link to kind of go to Notion as well on that. And it's broken down into these super simple tasks. So we've got the name of the action, what is it actually that you're asking the person to do? Hopefully at a glance, they can understand it, and most importantly, you as a manager can understand it as well. You've then got the date last actioned or checked, the frequency, what your expectations are, any tags so you can kind of split the role, maybe potentially later on down the track. So for example, between your B2B business and your B2C business. Then I've kind of broken it down further into some information on the tasks itself, the confidence level that the person has, what the trainer thinks of that Notion template or the Notion report, who's responsible for the training, and then has the initial training been done, and any additional pages or questions that that person wants to ask. And as you can see here, I've filtered it for frequency, and that makes it super simple for me to go in and have a look. Okay, on a daily basis, what's the status of these tasks? Have we reviewed the wholesale inbox? Have we done that on a daily basis? Yes or no. Our order management, have we fulfilled those orders? Yes or no. And the team just goes in there, or this particular person will go in there and tick off date last actioned at the end of their day, so that we know at a glance where we are on any individual daily actions. You then break that further down into what needs to be completed weekly, fortnightly, and even monthly. And as you can see, some of these haven't been actioned yet. It's because I've not yet taught it out to the person involved, and I haven't written out the processes. But what I've now done is I will train that person, and then I'll ask them to write out the processes and I'll review it. That's just my personal preference in terms of learning style. And you can get quite a lot out of just doing screen records. On a Mac, it's Command-Shift-5. On Windows, that'll pop up at the bottom. I don't actually know it off the top of my head. And you can record a screen recording and then whack it straight into Notion straight away, so the person really never misses it. In this Notion template, we also have a few different views. So take, for example, the date completed view. This gives you an idea of what did that person do on that particular day. You can kind of go in and see, okay, on June the 7th, obviously this can be, gamed, and that's why you're gonna have to go in and have a look in a real deep dive, which I'll talk about in a second. What do they do June 7th, June 4th, June 3rd? Obviously there'll be elements of daily which get replaced quite regularly. You can then go into calendar view, which is a similar view of seeing, okay, what's happening across the different days. And then we've got some other areas like the tiny table view, which is just a quick overview. The table view, which kind of gives you a bit more detail if you want to read, say, what the expectations are quite easily. You've got the gallery, which hopefully is quite simple as well. You can see, okay, I need to update the stock levels here on career rate. What does that look like? And you can start to understand at a glance how well filled these individual items are. And then you've got this list view, which is a super simple way if you're getting quite familiar with the emojis to be able to scan quite quickly as well. So let's dive into one that I've created earlier, which is reviewing social media. Now, reviewing social media is a B2C task. At the moment, the lady who is doing this feels kind of 70% confident, which is good information for me as a boss to understand. My expectation is that we respond to people kind of once per day. We have quite clear instructions on our wholesale and our retail channels that if you want to get in contact with us, you can contact us at the hello inbox, which makes it super simple for someone to manage, I guess, order complaints. We can see their emails more easily, and we can understand, for example, getting forwarded on the emails, which is where we do vast majority of our communication with the customer. But nonetheless, we will get people kind of messaging us about order issues, and you want to be available for that customer when they need you. You then kind of go through forward before, the responsible for training, what is the actual tasks that are involved, and how do I feel about the notes. I said 30 here, but it's probably closer to 70 now. There's still room for improvement, and it's kind of good to focus on that. Now, we have quite a simple, easy link to those canned responses. So customers come to us and they might be complaining about something, or talking to us about a potential item such as a new charity. Well, we've spoken to so many people about different charities, so whenever someone comes to us, we really want to make sure that they understand that we've taken all of the steps appropriate to make sure that we've recorded that charity, put it down in our list, and make sure that we've actually considered them as well. These are all the minutiae and small details that you'd expect to see in a particular business, and that's what we're doing for our main business bear kind. Of course, this will look very different to whatever yours looks like. We then kind of put the steps down almost like you've never done it before, and that's just so that if we ever need to get someone else up to speed, they can go in here and they go, okay, cool, I need access to social media, and he can give that to me. Here's the link for it. I can click on that straight away. This is what the platform is going to look like. Let's take, for example, responding to a customer on ads. So I want to give an idea that I want people to be questioning, elicit responses, every additional I can also then give the reason why I want to do this, and it's because every additional comment drives social proof, which makes our ads cheaper. And also emojis are super fun and customers love them. Take, for example, here, I've kind of then pulled the examples that I really like. So X-teen, pigeons would be nice. Sure, we could have said, yes, thank you so much. But instead we said, thank you so much. We're actually sampling them at the moment and hope to bring them out soon. Is the display picture your pigeon? Notion is endlessly scalable in this respect. So if I wanted to make a new thing, for example, like making a YouTube video, I could put that in B2B. I could then go through and add any additional information that I would like here. So what are the steps, access requirements, really any kind of step that you'd think about putting it down. And we've left this free text because it's very different across all of the different sections that we have here. So if you go into, say, checking if the orders are fulfilled on Shopify on time, what does that look like? You can then see all of these individual orders, and it's super different on every single aspect. Now, as a manager of this person or a boss, however you want to describe it, you want to make sure that they feel supported, valuable, and really understand the power that this role has within the team. But equal to that, you also want to make sure that you're doing regular deep dives to make sure that the work is being completed to the standard that you would expect. And that's important because there's so much that's going on that you probably don't have enough time to understand all of it, but you want to be able to go into a deep dive on a particular area if you don't feel that it's being done, say, for example, to the right level of detail, or you might be thinking, okay, actually, what are the expectations here? And that's why I'm really happy that we've got this expectations column. So for example, you can play with quality, cost, and flexibility quite easily. I can say in the expectations that I want you on this every single day. The moment an email comes up, I want a notification, and I can put that in my expectations. At the moment, I'm focusing more on the deep work. So my expectation is on most of the daily activities that is just checked one time per day. And that's just so that customers don't, I think, expect a response from us as a small business within kind of 12 hours, 2 hours. It's probably slower. It's probably closer to 24 hours. So we check that kind of 1 to 2 times per day. And that's the expectations that I've set here. That reduces our cost. It focuses people on the quality because we're not going to be there for the customer instantly to respond to their whims. And obviously that's not what a customer needs to hear, but they're not going to be sitting there thinking, oh, well, why didn't you get back to me instantly? I think that's a ridiculous expectation, and I'm sure customers won't be expecting that, especially for us when we're selling socks. But that might differ for your business, and that's why it's important to be able to share those expectations with your team members. Now, what type of person should you be looking for in this role? For us, we really wanted an individual who is detail-oriented, reliable, and proactive. Obviously, sometimes you can't get all of that. And then the real kind of secret sauce for us is that we want someone who is all of those traits, but also super mission driven. And that's because they're going to tend to always go above and beyond for the business, which is also super crucial. LinkedIn has also made it incredibly easy to find these people. Whack a remote job title in any role and you'll be able to find so many people. We didn't actually need to rely on that. We found this through our network, but that's what we would have done for this role. We've done it for another role and we actually got over 1,000 applications for a designer that we looked for. And because it's remote, you've got your pickings. And that's the amazing part of setting up a virtual operations department from the get-go. Setting it up like this using Notion is going to make it incredibly easy in the future for your team to pick up all of the processes and policies. You're going to be able to set in place. Sometimes you need to be able to say, okay, actually, you can refund this person this amount of money. If you can't, or what do you do after if they can't? Setting that out from the get-go is going to be incredibly crucial. And the person that makes or joins your operations department and then makes these processes are going to be an incredibly crucial point of kind of setting you up for success in the future. You can then start to think about things like just-in-time, total quality management, all of that stuff that you'd think about and hear about at the Harvard Business School or somewhere like that. Have you heard the story of Zappos? Zappos are operational geniuses. What they actually were able to do is set up a business selling shoes online just like anybody else. You'd be fooled thinking, oh, well, it can't have gone that well. Well, it actually sold for 1.2 billion pounds or dollars, sorry, to Amazon. And they bought it because they're operations geniuses. When you bought a product from them, you knew that you were going to get an amazing experience. And that's what they sold. They sold shoes, but done through an incredible operation. Have you heard the story about Apple and Tim Cook? Tim Cook is now in charge of Apple, but before that, he was actually, if you didn't know the story, a supply and operations genius. He set up Apple to now be worth multiple trillions because they are, whenever they bring out something, they don't really get it wrong. Obviously, there's a couple of examples, but when you're making trillions of dollars, I think probably trillions of dollars at this point, you're going to be getting some things wrong, but they don't do it in such a bad way. And if they do it, they've got an operations department that kind of comes in and always gives you an amazing experience. The other example I always like to think about from operations is Toyota, in particular with their lean manufacturing and just-in-time. You could probably argue that at scale, they invented just-in-time processes. And now that's bringing all of the materials that you need to make a car so that it's right and ready there at the exact right time. which improves your business, not just because you've got everything available to you, but you've got the bare minimum, which keeps your stock levels down, which means that you're going to be able to turn over your cash and get a higher return on your income and the assets you're employing. Another example is the franchise business. Think about Starbucks, McDonald's, really kind of any franchise that you could name, Subway. What do? They make it as simple as possible and as operational as possible. Every process and policy is there somewhere for you to be taught exactly how to make a sandwich. From the way that you do the butter, the temperature of the fridge, everything is set out and made into an operation that you can just build and build and build. You don't have to worry and redo it because your operations department has already made those repeatable tasks as simple as possible and is now doing and executing them. And there you have it. That is the end of the video today. You don't need a VA. What you actually need is an operations department. So if you like this video, obviously you can check out the Notion page below, but as well, if you can like, subscribe, and follow for more, and we'll see you soon.